All right, we're pushing on with more list methods. We've seen so far a couple ways of adding to a list. Now we're going to see how to remove things, and there's a couple of options. So the simplest way, and possibly the least commonly used, at least in my experience, is clear. Clear will remove all of the items from the list at once. No matter what's in there, it doesn't discriminate, it just gets rid of everything. So here's an example. We have a list, 1, 2, 3, 4, in the first list variable. First list dot clear, we don't pass in anything. So we need those empty parentheses in order to invoke it. We'll talk more about what they do and what would happen if we left them off once we get to functions. But just know we need the parentheses even if we don't put anything in them. And now if we looked at first list, it's totally empty. So I have a demo is a bit generous. I have a list called items, and this would be like a shopping cart. So you might want to, if a user signs out or they want to delete everything in their shopping cart, you could clear it all at once with items.clear. And if we look at items, it's not gone, it's just empty. But of course, a lot of the time, we don't want to remove everything from a list. What if we just wanted to remove a single element? Well, one way to do that is by using pop. So the way that pop works is that we pass in a particular index, the index at which we want to delete an item. Or if we don't pass in an index and we do empty parentheses, it will remove the last item by default. So I also mentioned that it will return, removes, and returns. We'll cover that in just a moment. But if we had our first list, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we just run .pop without specifying a number, it removes the last item by default, which is 4. So the list looks like 1, 2, 3 at this point. Then if we run pop again, but this time I pass in 1, that is saying please remove the item at the index of 1. So that would be 0, 1, which means 2. So let's take a look at some code. Let's rerun items here. So I have this items list. And if I just run items.pop, just like this, you can see that it returns cat food. So it takes the item off, it takes cat food off. And if we look at items, it now is shorter, it doesn't have cat food, but it also doesn't just disappear, it lets us capture cat food if we wanted to. So I could make a variable like this, last item equals items.pop. And if I did this, if we look at items, it's now gone down one more, teapot is gone, but if I look at last item, it has the value of teapot stored inside of it. We'll talk a lot more about what returning values actually means later on. I know I'm saying that a lot in these couple of videos. So we can also use pop. Let me restore items one more time. So now it's back to its initial state where it has 4 items. If I wanted to remove mug, we find the index, that's 0, 1. And so then I could do items.pop 1. And that returns mug. And if we look at items now, mug is gone. And it doesn't leave an empty space behind or anything. It's gone, and the list shrinks around it. So to delete the first thing from a list, I could just do items dot, and let's save it to a variable again, first equals items dot pop, and the index of 0. And if we look at first, it has socks, and items has teapot and cat food. So we removed socks from the beginning. So that's pop. You don't pass in a value, it removes the last thing by default. If you do pass in an index, it removes the item at that index. And in both cases, it returns the removed item if you want to capture it and do something with it. Okay, so you might be feeling a bit overwhelmed by all of these methods. That's okay, there's a lot of them. Don't feel like you need to memorize all of them. I'm going to try and give you a lot of opportunity to practice, lots of quizzes and exercises. But even then, this is not something that you need to memorize, or you shouldn't feel like you have to just sit there and memorize it right away. It will come with time. The last method we'll take a look at, which has to do with removing items from lists, is a bit different. It's called remove. Easy to remember. And it works a little bit different in that we actually provide an item, a value that we want to remove, not an index. So it will remove the first item from a list whose value is X, meaning we pass in X, and it will find the first match and remove it, whatever the index is. And if it doesn't find that item, it throws an error. So here's an example. This list has 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4. And if I run .remove 2, it's going to find the first instance of 2, which is right here. It's the only one, and it removes it out, leaving us with 1, 3, 4, 4, 4. But if we tried it with .remove 4, there's multiple 4s, it will only remove the first one. And so we end up with 1, 3, 4, 4. So this is useful if you're not sure where something is in a list, but you want to remove it, you can use .remove. We should also note that it does not return the item that was removed because you know already what you're trying to remove. So if you needed that value, we have 2 right here. We're telling it to remove 2. Okay, so let's do an example. Let's make a list called names. And names will be a list, and it will have a couple. I'll fast forward through this. Okay, well, my computer shut down halfway through that, but I'm back here now with a completed list of names. And there's a couple, my name is on here twice. So let's do names.remove. And I want to remove Blue because she's a cat, and these are all people. And if I look at names now, Blue is gone. If I did the same thing for Colt, the first time it removes this version, but it still leaves Colt there. So we can do it one more time. And now this list has no Colt in it. And lastly, if I tried to remove something that isn't in the list, like Jesus, I get this value error, list remove X. X is not in the list. We haven't learned how to handle errors or do anything when we get errors. So for now, it's just good to know that it generates an error. Okay, so 3 ways of removing items. The first one is like taking a sledgehammer to your list. It removes everything, clear. Then we saw pop, which pop on its own without any data passed in, without an index specified, will delete the last item and return it. But if you provide an index, it removes the item at that index and returns it. And then finally, remove is a bit different in that we pass in a value we want to remove. If it finds it, it will remove the first instance. Otherwise, it throws an error. Okay, 3 more methods under our belt.